My guest today, is Chip Littlejohn, and he is on the scientific board advisory for Avini Health. How are you today, sir? And Chip, I'm excited to have this conversation because you talked about Cell Defender. And before we even started the interview, and you told me, who is this product for? And you said, everyone, all earthlings. And we're going to find out that story. So what is our topic for today, Chip?
So at the top of my page, one word, important. I want everybody to understand what's of value to them today. And so my topic is essentially your Avini adventure machine, which is your body. Doesn't matter what else you have in the garage. If your adventure machine isn't working, doesn't matter. So that's our topic.
Okay.
I'm coming to you from the high performance side today.
Okay. I'm always about high performance, especially in health. And so let's just jump really quickly into some of your background, Chip, and how you got introduced to Avini.
I'm going to start with the punchline, and then I'll tell you a little bit of my background. In case something happens and you don't get to hear another thing, here's the main idea. A clean, healthy body works great and fixes itself. Where did I come from? Essentially, 20 years ago, my wife handed a fax over her shoulder to me, and it was from a brilliant biochemist. And I started reading it, and I thought, oh my gosh, this might be the most important thing I've ever read. Everything I had learned before was so complex. I am a Special Forces team leader, former, and a master parachutist. I still coach water skiers. I want that euphoria. If you're an aging athlete that doesn't want to give anything up today, this is for you. If you're horribly ill, your first event is getting well. That's the way I'm going to talk to you. So what was on that page? Why was that so important? And I thought everything else that I knew were a whole bunch of complex things that would help the body function better. Here was the opposite. This guy was pulling the stumbling blocks out of the way that were keeping all the building blocks from going together. And it just flashed in my mind. I was fortunate to see it huge in the first minute. And I thought, everything's going to start going right at once. Every metabolic process is running like it should have all along. And all the right things you're doing aren't suddenly of less value. They're suddenly of their full value because you're removing the impediments. That's the big idea.
So you were introduced to this 20 years ago, Chip?
Almost today, almost 20 years ago, right this minute, sitting in the basement, phone call came in. A guy knew that my wife was really great at businesses, approached her. He was a business type guy. And he said, by the way, we just got a new biochemist and a new product. Let me fax it to you. Here it comes. And over the shoulder, it comes to me because that's my part. I love living things and what makes us more alive. I bet you if you're on this call today, a fascination with living things, what makes us more alive. And I started reading that. And the other thing I saw on there, study on dogs. And dogs that had been sick got the raw material intravenously, and they had growths that started to disappear. And I thought, this is a lot bigger than I thought it was when I thought it was the biggest thing already that I'd ever come across. And this is happening in minutes. I hope that's happening for you today. I believe that I'm presenting to you some of the most important ideas that you'll ever learn about yourself in your life, about getting the ultimate version of yourself, the unlimited version of you. That's what we want from Avini, A-V-I-N-I. That's what you're after.
I think it's fantastic, Chip, and congratulations on finding this. So once you found it and your wife found it, what kind of gave you that aha moment of things once?
The people that happened to be in the room with us started joining us. So I have that problem. I want it. And then we made a couple of calls and they wanted it. And then this is what I thought was really interesting. They were selling it in a package of products, and we bought the most we could buy. And I started passing it, scattering out to people who I thought could benefit. And what happened to them was even more convincing to me than what happened to myself. When people started coming back that knew nothing about what was in there, they didn't know what was in that tiny little bottle. By the way, this is the tiny little bottle right here. It's drops. You just open it up, put a few drops. Very next time you're peeing poison. Mercury, cadmium, lead, arsenic, tin, antimony, bismuth, strontium, uranium, plutonium, even gadolinium for medical imaging leaves in the urine. Not more difficult for the kidneys, but easier. Now you've taken pressure off of your entire detoxification system, and whatever's left, then you can begin to support that. And that's the rest of the product line. We come in to support your gut, your heart, your mind, your eyes, come right down the line. And we begin to support those things, your liver, your connective tissue, your endocrine system. We come right down the line and support that. We had exactly one in-person meeting of the scientific advisory board before we launched the company. All the rest of them, there's always been an audience listening to us. This is what came out of that meeting. Our biochemist had a vault full of ideas that essentially answered this question. How can we help you to help you? We don't want to hurt you to help you. We don't want it to be a wash. We want you to be free to use it aggressively if you want. And so this was the message that came out of that very first scientific advisory board for Avini. Let's do the life-saving stuff first. And we're about to introduce 2 more products at a summit meeting in Las Vegas next weekend. That's what's going on.
Wow.
Off and running.
All right. So let's talk about this life-changing. How's this life-changing? And you talked about specifically what people have in their body, the toxins. And how does this work to help people release some of those toxins?
Okay, so it comes down to how do we not work? And it's because there is competition for the same space between a biologically active metal and a biologically toxic metal. The bad one kicks the good one out of the way, and that particular little piston quits firing. If you think about yourself as having mitochondria and the Krebs cycle and making ATP, you're a trillion cylinder engine. But throughout life, we accumulate things that pull plug wires off. And after you lose a few 100,000 of your pistons, you begin to feel sluggish.
Right.
And you don't feel like you have the unlimited version of yourself. And so you start searching the world over and you find the building blocks of good health. What's new and different here is removing the stumbling blocks that keep it all from fitting together right. The key thing that's really simplifying to make it easy, the same reason they're poison, which is they have a lot of weight in their nucleus and they hold their electrons in really tiny orbits. So the van der Waal radii is small and they go inside of you and they get stuck someplace.
Okay.
The right thing can't get there anymore. Think about it this way. You've got a calendar on your fridge. It's on August right now. Strangely enough, one of your kids had a speaker with a huge magnet in it, and that was the magnet you put on that to hold it on August. All of a sudden it turns to September and you go to flip the page, it's stuck on there so tight, you can't get it off. You can imagine how strong that kind of a magnet is stuck to you. You can't get it off, so it is forever August. The flow has stopped. We have to be able to move around as organisms. Everything within us, we look solid, but we're hollow. All kinds of vessels and pumps and accumulation areas. If we stop flowing, it's like somebody set a glass over our candle. We start to go out. We just get dimmer and dimmer throughout our lives. If it doesn't kill you, you just get dimmer. And that's what we're able to undo.
Wow. All right. So talk about some of the ways once you start taking the product, what changes do you see?
I think it's really interesting. I was in a chiropractor's office in Alliance, Nebraska, and I looked on the wall about the things he could do and what to expect. And what jumped off of the wall at me was Outlook. And I thought, Outlook, and I asked him about it because I hadn't seen that as something to watch for before. And then I tied it into what we have. Before you can ever measure it in a lab, and your labs will improve with these products dramatically. You'll move towards optimal in every area. But before you can ever measure it, your outlook, what you think is going to happen, what you expect, your expectations, that's the very first thing to improve. If you, just for example, you walk up to a puddle and you ask yourself, can I jump over that puddle or do I need to walk through it? Question goes to every cell in your body. They either come back to you with a yes, go ahead and jump the puddle, or no, you ain't going to make it. And you're going to get a lot more yeses if you're running on all cylinders. And that's what we're offering you.
So
you
people start running on all cylinders and start to feel better.
Exactly. A biochemical example, in the brain, tiny nerves reach out to touch each other, exactly like we're doing on this podcast. We're reaching out to other people. If we succeed, communication goes on. It gets better. People can join. They can do what we're talking about. If we fail, and that's what's going on in people's brains, mercury dissolves the insulation on the tiniest nerves in the brain. Everybody knows what a myelin sheath is because of MS. Most people don't know the word tubulin. Same thing. It's the protein and the insulation on the tiniest wires in your brain. There's a 5-minute and 1-second video because of the argument between dentists about whether silver amalgam fillings that contain mercury are safe or not. And this is literally an electron microscope video, and it's one brain cell alive, reaching out to its neighbors. Everything's going great. It's reaching out, just like we are here. And they introduce a tiny bit of ionic mercury into the slide, and it dissolves the insulation instantly. It falls off. The protein is still made, but it cannot be assembled. It's like a little girl's pop beads, and all of a sudden you put something in the place where the next one's supposed to go, and they can't attach. They can't make a bracelet or a necklace anymore. That leads to amyloid plaques. What is that protein buildup in the brain when people can't think? It leads to the neural tangles. The bare wires touching each other and tangling up. Now the messages can't get there. The wonderful thing is they keep working. They keep attempting to reach out to each other. to the degree that particular pollutant, mercury, is in the brain, you can't get it. You cannot make the connections. But the beauty is when you remove it, they begin to be successful again. And even people who are developmentally impaired as kids, or they've got old timers problems and their mind is beginning to leave them, they begin to regain that function. A really cool thing that I think you'll enjoy, Neil, is the hierarchy of brain functions. Everybody knows this. If you're on today, you know a lot about this. And I'm just reminding that you already know it because you've seen someone get drunk. What happens when you hurt a brain? I listened to one of your speakers and he worked on concussions and adjusting the bones and concussions, and he got great results with people. I don't care if you hit on the head or you pick up mercury in your fish. The way that the brain loses its function is highly predictable. If somebody's getting drunk and they're depriving oxygen to their brain with alcohol, the inhibition and the judgments go first. That's why you think, you're taller and better looking. Inhibition and judgments go right off the top. The filters get hurt. Then fine motor skills, speech, short-term memory. It's predictable. It happens every time. When it starts coming back, it comes back in the reverse order. This is really cool to know, and I think people know this too, but they don't think about it. What's the very last two things that the brain protects? It is long-term memory. Gives up short-term memory real quick. I don't know what I did last night, but it protects long-term memory. That's the answer to the question, how can a memory so short go back so far? Guess what? The very last thing the brain protects is organ function.
Organ.
The very last, even beyond long-term, it's organ functions. That's the explanation why you can go to an old-timers clinic and maybe their personality isn't even there, but they got a perfect body. Their brain is protecting organ function, but all the other has been stolen, oftentimes by pollutants. And we actually do see the brain succeed in reaching out and making new connections when people begin peeing poison like this. These are huge ideas that we're sharing. Everybody benefits. You see why I'm saying all the earthlings, everybody has the problem. We're all exposed. If you eat, drink, breathe, every time we create a new convenience, I'm risking my brain talking to you on a cell phone, right? I'm radiating my brain. Why? Because the benefits. I drive around in a vehicle on a paved road. Everything we do comes with its own pollutants and dangers. In martial arts, you're taught at the beginning of every class, recognize a potentially dangerous situation. Avoid if possible. Defend if necessary. So in the past, the best we could do is try to not get polluted so much. Wear protective clothing. Don't breathe the fumes coming out of your gas tank when you fill it up. When you open the kitchen sink and you smell all that cleanliness underneath, that's not good for you. When you hop in the hot tub, the chemicals go into your lungs. And when you eat a fish, we're at the top of the food chain, but it accumulates in us. For the very first time, we have a defend as necessary product line. And that active ingredient we call Avini Detoxolite, A-V-I-N-I, Detoxolite. It is a specially prepared natural mineral that is small enough to leave your gut, circulate systemically in the body fluids, and it's cleaned. In nature, it's already poison. It's already full of poisons. That's what it does. So really the miracle of the biochemist is he figured out how to clean it. So far, no one else has figured out how to make water run uphill, essentially, to run the cationic exchange backwards. And I realize I'm giving you a lot in each little question.
And we have not even come up with a name for this podcast yet, Chip, and I hope you are my expert to talk about this product over and over again in different ways as we work together, just being a guest, because I just find this fascinating. Because again, my goal is to live forever. Is that nuts? That's the Brian Johnson goal, but it's my goal to live forever. And I got a lot to catch up on from, being a professional wrestler who ended up getting my body beat up as a pro wrestler to having some trauma in my life. But you're right. Eliminating these toxins from our body. How are we getting all these awful toxins?
Yeah. So every other right thing you've done suddenly begins to pay. All the other podcasts that you've done, all the things, the ingredients, they aren't suddenly of less value. They are of their full value. They're of their full value. And if you were a pro wrestler, you have a super high performance body. I was a Special Forces team leader. I still coach water skiers. I'll be coaching water skiers tonight. I'm a 1950 model human that still barefoots and coaches water skiers, can get through a slalom course.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
That's what everybody wants. So the title today is Your Avini Adventure Machine, which is your body. It's not your 69 Camaro out in the garage. It is your body. It's that cool car, that motorcycle, your boat, whatever it is. It's meaningless if your adventure machine goes down on you. And that's what you're asking for. I believe everybody's asking for that.
We're asking for the fountain of youth and how to get it in so many ways.
We got it. We've got it. At least we've got one of the major pieces, and that is run clean. A clean, healthy body works great and fixes itself. If you're in trouble, we begin to unwind out of that. If you're already at high performance, occasionally I've gotten to work with gold medal Olympians. And they said, I don't need this. I'm fine. I got a little message from God. I said, what's better than fine? What do you mean, what's better than fine? Okay, you were the 400-meter Olympic gold medalist at the Atlanta Olympics. Guy I was talking to. Half the fastest 400 that will ever be run already been run. What did he say instantly? No. Well, where's it going to come from? And he said, innovation, coaching, better nutrition, mindset. I said, that's what I'm bringing to you. And that's what we're bringing. That's what we're talking about today. The unlimited version of yourself.
That's cute.
Go into
That's
your
huge.
old age in great shape. Yeah, it's one of the biggest things. Short of spiritual things, I think it's the biggest thing.
So my question to you, because I want to dive deeper into this for sure, is involving the whole toxins. How do we get these bad metals into our bodies? How does that happen?
One of the problems being at the top of the food chain. So let's just start with mercury. Down in the Amazon rainforest right now, in the silt going down the Amazon, there is microscopic gold. Going way back into antiquity, they would mine the gold by taking mercury, putting some of the silt and a glob of mercury in the barrel and then mixing it with their hands or stomping it like grapes with their feet. And the mercury would accumulate the gold, and then they would take it and they would vaporize off the mercury. Mercury is vapor at room temperature. I don't know if you knew that. Fascinating. Metal that's liquid, but it also vaporizes off. Then you breathe it. Then it goes into your brain like we were just talking about. Or it goes to your mitochondria. If you're a high-performance athlete like you are, you know about the mitochondria and the Krebs cycle.
Yes. I want to get some MCT oils. I used to do it sometimes, and I want to start feeding the mitochondria more with MCT oils.
If you're doing that, you have to get to the end product, which is adenosine triphosphate. ATP does not have a magnesium in the chain, but there has to be one there to facilitate the breaking and remaking, the spark of life, the currency of life. Mercury, once again, displaces that magnesium, and that little piston quits going around. So now in the last few minutes, we've talked about if you have mind fog and you feel like you've got an energy failure, that can be the same pollutant, which is starting out maybe in the Amazon when they're using it to collect metal. And then it goes up the food chain. Each thing that picks it up, and it goes up to the biggest fish. What's above the biggest fish? Us. We're at the top of the food chain. We get the most accumulation. If you can eat the littler fish, you're safe. That's just an example. Arsenic. Any wood that's supposed to be outside. Had a lady and she loved her garden, so she built a deck by the garden. Next thing she knew, the next summer, she and her dog got horribly ill. They were picking up arsenic out of the deck that they made to watch over their beautiful garden, leaching out of arsenic into the garden. Yeah, the arsenic leaching out into the garden. There's traps. There are traps. I love the look on your face because we set traps for ourselves and we do catch ourselves. You've put your keys someplace where you said, I shouldn't have put them there because I'm not sure I'll look there again. You catch yourself in a trap like that. Here we are, and we're asking you to look twice at every intersection, avoid if possible, but drive around in an SUV. So if you do get hit at the intersection, it's not going to hurt you as bad. That's what we're doing.
All right, I got it. So Chip, there's so much more to talk about. That's why I'm excited about having a series with you. People can just go and click the link below, and I'm going to have information for people later on in the podcast side of things. And then once this launches we'll have a link for our radio listeners as well that people can give later, but we're not doing that now. But everyone click the link below. And if it's the radio show, we'll have specifically a little bit more information and the special offer that we're offering our radio listeners as well, Chip. And I want you to share this interview. So once it launches, you're going to share this to the world so that more and more people can hear what you have to say involving Avini Health. Thank you again, Chip. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. It was great to be with you.
All right. You're listening and watching The Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.